Good morning and welcome to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Hope you enjoyed your day off.
Yes.
We took off for the King holiday yesterday.
Yes, and didn't have the opportunity to go to the parade, but I heard that there was one.
Yes, there was, and there usually is. So, and I hope everybody had a good time was had by all. But glad you're back and glad to be back with you.
Yes.
We are halfway through the month of January already.
I know, it's pretty wild. And the excitement for 2024 has just gotten underway yesterday in Iowa, where they had their caucus. Very excited about that.
The starting pistol has gone off.
Well, and yesterday it was reported that Trump had won all 99 counties in the state of Iowa. However, late last night, all of a sudden, Nikki Haley won one county. That's Johnson County. It's one of the most liberal counties in the state of Iowa. And we all know that they were pushing Democrats out to caucus and vote for her. And she was at 1271, and Donald Trump was at 1270 in that county. So she won by one vote. Kind of interesting. You kind of have to wonder sometimes. But Donald Trump doing very well there. And, you know, Bill, I am not surprised.
No, I'm not either. And that's what was predicted. And this is how this all came about. And this man is like the Energizer Bunny, hops on his plane as soon as that's over. Gave a great speech, by the way. We'll be talking about that. And has to go to New York, or is in New York this morning, because he's got to be back in court over a situation where there were no victims.
Yeah, he was back at 3:30 this morning, so he's been up for a full 24 hours going into court. He should be going into court this morning. Mm-hmm. So don't think he has slept, and yet he is still going.
Yeah.
So
the man's just amazing.
Yeah, and I do think that Trump is he is really trying to pull people together. Yeah. This is a little clip of his speech last night.
This is really good.
Well, I want to thank everybody. This has been some period of time, and most importantly, we want to thank the great people of Iowa. Thank you. We love you all. What a turnout, what a crowd. And I really think this is time now for everybody, our country, to come together. We want to come together, whether it's Republican or Democrat or liberal or conservative. It would be so nice if we could come together and straighten out the world and straighten out the problems and straighten out all of the death and destruction that we're witnessing. That's practically never been like this. It's just so important, and I want to make that a very big part of our message. We're going to come together. It's going to happen soon, too. It's going to happen soon.
Yeah, and he goes on in that speech, but he is definitely did very, very well in Iowa. I think people were not surprised. The polling matches the outcome. So although Nikki Haley did say last night, it's clear that there are only two people in this race.
That's right.
Unfortunately, she didn't realize that Ron DeSantis actually took second.
Is still there, yeah. And he came in second. So it's interesting. I guess they're tied for second.
There's a couple hundred votes, but difference, which is fine. But I think that Nikki's a little delusional when it comes to where she's at in the polls and how people really feel about her. I am no fan. This was from her campaign event yesterday, her caucus event. You can see some of these people don't exactly. I mean, the lady with the mask, I don't know. She might not be a Republican.
Well, yeah. Let's see. The crowd's going wild. I see.
Yeah, they look really excited about her, don't they?
Yeah. I see some people looking at their phone. One lady in a mask, for God's sake.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
you wonder. Like I said, there was a big push for Democrats to go out and caucus for Nikki Haley. That's been pushed all over as far as even in the state of Georgia. They're trying to get people to go register as Republicans so they can vote in our primary. I do think that is just, I think it's bad form. I mean, but they can do it. It's legal. It's just a little unfortunate. So we'll see what happens. I think the biggest surprise for me last night was Vivek coming out, especially he did 250 events in like a 2-week time period. He was doing 12 to 13 events a day.
Wow. Energizer Bunny Jr.
Yes. Well, I believe he's 37 years old, 35 or 37.
Something like that.
Yes. And he is young. His messaging is good. Of course, there is all these things surrounding Vivek that people aren't really sure if they like or not. They're saying that he's a puppet for the deep state. I mean, here's the thing, Bill. if everything's a conspiracy, then nothing's a conspiracy. We've got to. And the thing about Republicans is we love to be distracted. Look at this little shiny thing over here. Mm-hmm. They're going to divert our attention from what's really important. And I think that that's really a huge issue with Republicans is that they are so easily distracted.
Yeah, in fact, we keep getting phone calls from the GOP asking for donations, and whoever answers the phone, me or my wife, says, as soon as you guys grow a backbone and start focusing on the real issues, we'll send you some money, okay? And they said, well, we've been hearing that a lot. I said, well, no kidding.
Yeah, Ronna McDaniel has had a very big issue trying to raise money for the GOP, but I do want to clarify. The RNC, the GOP at the national level, is disconnected from the state level, and the state level and the county level are disconnected as well. It's almost like a franchise. You operate separately. Different leadership operates differently. So just make sure that you're not totally cutting out the GOP because there are a lot of grassroots patriots that have taken over these GOPs at the county level and are really trying to turn the party around and make sure that we are listening to the people and that people understand that they have a voice. Our party is actually run from the bottom, which is different from the Democrat Party. So Republicans, shame on you for not getting involved. If you're not involved, please get involved with your local party. It's really important, especially as we encroach this very, very special election.
If you don't do it now, it's never going to happen.
Well, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is who's in power. That's the only thing that matters. And once people start to realize that that's what politics is. It's who has the power to make change for the better or for worse.
Yeah, kind of like the golden rules. He who has the goal makes the rules. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there we go. But I think that Vivek, he at least understands reality.
He does. He did make a terrible mistake with Donald Trump. And what the mistake is, he had a shirt made that said, "Save Trump, vote Vivek." Trump did not like that. I will say he put out a truth post about it. He was not thrilled. And I think it was a misstep on Vivek's part because he has been the only candidate that really has run without attacking Trump. So I think that this was just like a little hiccup, which is not too bad when you think about how the other candidates have run and how they have gone after Trump, which I just don't think is smart politically. I think Orange Man Bad, vote for me is not a good campaign slogan.
No, I would say that you probably want to rethink that one.
Yes. So, and here's Vivek talking about him suspending his presidential campaign.
Reality setting in.
Now, this is a campaign founded on speaking the truth. Not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. Not just to the Democrats, but to our own side. And not just to other campaigns and candidacies, but to ours. And so I will stick to the truth tonight. The first hard truth, and this one's hard for me. I got to admit this. But we've looked at it every which way, and I think it is true that we did not achieve the surprise that we wanted to deliver tonight. And I think that that's just a hard fact that we're going to have to accept as a campaign. And the question then is, what do we do that is right for our country? And so Purv and I, we actually didn't make this contingency plan before everybody told us to. We said, no, we're not doing that. But we talked about it tonight. We took a little bit of time in our apartment in Des Moines before coming here to make some hard choices. And I wanted to make a couple of announcements tonight to get the business out of the way. And then I want to tell you where we're going. As of this moment, we are going to suspend this presidential campaign. And this is going to have to be, there is no path for me to be the next president absent things that we don't want to see happen in this country. And I think that I am very worried for our country. I think we are skating on thin ice as a nation. We have done everything in our part to make, and done, every one of us in this room has done our part to save this country. And I am so proud of every one of you who have lifted us up. But we're a campaign founded on the truth. And so that's why we've made that decision today. And I'm also making the decision that this has to be an America First candidate in that White House. As I've said since the beginning, there are two America First candidates in this race. And earlier tonight, I called Donald Trump to tell him that I congratulate him on his victory. And now going forward, he will have my full endorsement for the presidency. And I think we're going to do the right thing for this country. And so I'm going to ask you to follow me in taking our America First movement to the next level. It did not begin in 2016. It began in 1776.
I think that he did the right thing.
I do too.
And what a class act. I mean, honestly, I think when you look at Ron DeSantis, and I will just have to say, I'm so disappointed in Ron DeSantis. Number one, there was a crisis, a state of emergency in the state of Florida because of all the flooding there. He flew in to give his State of the State address and flew back out to Iowa to a blizzard where most things were closed so that he could campaign, and abandon his state. On top of that, he flew out all the people in his gubernatorial office to go knock doors. I think it's disgusting. I think that he has just ruined his political career moving forward. I don't know what he's thinking, Bill.
I don't either. This is ridiculous. His first obligation, first of all, he told the people of Florida he wasn't going to run for president anyway, and now abandoning his duties.
He changed the law. He changed the law in Florida because it used to be illegal to run. Only for the governor can you run for office while you're in position. Byron Donaldson had to step down in order to run for his congressional seat. So from the state house to run for his seat in D.C. So it's the only office that they made changes to. And it's so Ron DeSantis could run for president. That's disgusting. They did it on the Florida taxpayers' dime. And he's been terrible. He's run a terrible campaign. He, I don't know what to say. Thank goodness they have a good legislator there because I think that's where he gets most of his points from. But
what a shame because he had, I think, a brilliant career. He could have been the next president after Trump. And had he thrown himself behind Trump 100%, might have been the VP candidate, which would have been Bill O'Reilly. I agree with him most of the time, said, that would have been the unbeatable combination.
Well, Steve Stanton Sr. says, agree. I think this is the most important election of my lifetime. Everybody knows that this
Steve,
time.
You're right.
Absolutely. So make sure you reach out to your Republican Party, door knock, talk to your neighbors, see what we can do to get people out. We need poll watchers, poll workers, and we need people to evangelize other people to get out and vote. So Mary McCann Hybrider says Ron DeSantis has sold out. He was booed at his State of the State address. He absolutely was. And I can't, here's the other thing. He is the governor of the state of Florida, and I don't think he could win the primary there. And I think people are super mad at Ron DeSantis right now.
Yeah.
So
and for good reason. And once again, it's a shame. He had a brilliant career ahead of him, and I think he's really blown it. It was too early for him to run for president. He just and whoever his advisors are, boy, they ought to be all fired immediately, if not sooner.
Well, I also think we see this on the Republican side all the time. The people, the consultants, the political class on the Republican side, they are so out of touch with reality, and they're out of touch with like normal everyday people that they make super bad decisions, and they also recommend things to candidates that are deal breakers and that win them or that lose them races. So it's a huge problem with the Republicans. We do not play to win. We play to lose less.
It's interesting that they campaign on an issue. When the issue comes up for a vote, like say, let's go to Obamacare. 4 cycles they campaigned against Obamacare. When it came up for a vote, when they had the House, the Senate, and the presidency, they didn't vote it out.
Because there's too much money flowing. I mean, that's basically what it boils down to. You look at, I think, I'm trying to think of what the numbers are. I think it's like some crazy amount, like $60 million that they spent on advertising in Iowa. Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis.
The money spent on advertising in Iowa is mind-boggling.
Well, also, what a waste of time.
I heard hundreds of millions.
Yes. Well, I think it was 60 million or something each. But the other thing is, where could that money have gone?
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing. We're in so much debt as a country. We have all of this political funds that we're raising. That money could go to pay off some debt.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of debt, I don't want to skip over the next thing, but y'all should call your representatives today, because they should not be voting on this terrible bill to keep the government open.
Mm-hmm.
They should shut down the government. It's a bad deal. It's a terrible deal. It literally doesn't even pay the interest. What we saved, quote unquote, doesn't even pay the interest for 6 days.
Mm-hmm.
We can't continue. I don't know what these people are thinking.
It is the proverbial house of cards, and it's about to fall. So tell them not to vote for this thing. And for goodness sakes, tell your people you don't want any more aid going to Ukraine. Ukrainian journalist, or
An American
journalist who has been reporting on the corruption in Ukraine and in the Biden administration, has just he was arrested and has now been found dead.
In prison.
Yeah.
Can
you say Jeffrey Epstein?
Well, here's the other thing. How can a congressman support giving any additional money to them when we don't know what happened? Why was he in jail? What was he arrested for? And why didn't we get him back?
Mm-hmm.
We have got to start standing for American citizens, or nothing else matters, Bill. I mean, here's the other thing. Did you agree to give all of these foreign countries your tax money?
No.
If you don't pay your taxes, what happens to you?
Usually they come and take your property, you can go to jail.
Yeah, you have no choice. There is no freedom in this country when you look at the tax pay scale.
Mm-hmm.
It's a facade. Total facade, Bill. I'm so sick of giving money to foreign countries that, number one, hate us, and number two, do you think that Zelensky believes in democracy?
Doesn't look like it.
He's canceled elections. He's shut down I think they only have one source of news that he controls. So I just don't.
He's become a great Democrat.
Yeah, well, and Biden negotiated for a basketball player, Lizzie Warren says.
Mm-hmm.
He absolutely did.
Yeah.
And
but not a decorated Marine, who's still there, by the way.
Yeah. Well, and Mary McCann Hybrider says we are all indentured servants, which should not be happening in this country. I don't know what it's going to take for people to understand what these people have done. All of these people need to be replaced. I know that I should not say that, but I do think that they have been in charge for way too long. We have too many people that are taking money up there, and they don't care about the American people, and they no longer represent their congressional districts.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge problem. Huge, huge problem. They spend way too much time in D.C. and not enough time here at home. So
it used to be that, and that was not, by the way, it was when the founding fathers set all this up. This was not supposed to be a job, a career. You did your 2 years in Congress or whatever, 6 years in the Senate, and you went home.
Well, what if you could only make the salary of the median salary of your congressional district? How long?
Mm-hmm.
How long do you think they'd stay up there?
Yeah.
I don't know that they would.
It wouldn't be long.
Yeah, probably not.
Couldn't live with the rent, or you'd have to get one of those affordable housing.
Yeah, whatever that means.
Really.
Steve Stanton Sr. says, if you don't close the borders, you don't stand for any Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And Lizzie Warren, incumbents don't fear losing their seats. They absolutely do not. And on the note, Steve Stanton with the borders, I remember all of these Republicans saying, I will not vote for a bill if it does not include border security.
And what this bill is right now has nothing about border security.
Nope, it has nothing to do with it. We've basically just given the Democrats everything they want. And what did Republican get? Zero, per usual.
Compromise and do it their way.
Yep, this is what we deal with. It sucks to be a Republican because you're always used to losing. Mm-hmm. So, always fun.
All right, coming up next.
Joy Reid, real upset with what happened in Iowa.
Yes, sirree. Yes, nobody like Joyless Reid, the racist that she is, and she's proving it once again.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934. With personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Two milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable. The sad reality is, fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannahans with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Happy Tuesday.
Yes, and jumping right back in here, Iowa caucus happened last night. The thing I love about the election cycle is the energy you get from the people that are very passionate about what's going on in our country and what they feel like needs to happen. Joy Reid.
Boy, she's always exciting.
She's hard to watch. She's hard to watch.
Yeah, it's like watching paint dry, and how the people at MSNBC can live with themselves is beyond my comprehension. Lying and all to the Americans. You hear Jake Tapper last night interrupting Donald Trump's speech on the Communist News Network.
They will not allow any of Trump's speeches to be played, ever.
They
Even though he won.
Yeah.
They will not allow it because you want to know why? Because he's actually likable.
Yeah, and they aren't.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, they were running some of Trump's acceptance speech live last night, and then they tapped it down for Tapper. And he comes on because Trump said about all these millions of people that are coming across. He said, well, here you have Donald Trump overwhelmingly winning his in Iowa and giving his anti-immigration speech. No, it wasn't anti-immigration.
Even if it was, I mean, honestly, we have to take a stand on immigration.
Yeah, we've got to stop.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know a lot of people. We'll be talking about later in the show how Chicago feels about all the immigrants that they're getting.
Yeah, we did it for 30 years. We shut down immigration almost completely so that people we get that melting pot mentality back into the country. Well, it's interesting. I know that maybe this sounds like they're running broad jump here, but I can remember one of my favorite commanders at the 3rd Infantry Division was Glenn Webster, and he addressed the Navy League. Just after returning from another tour over in Afghanistan and places like that, he said the biggest problem they have is giving these people a sense of country. We think that we can just project, they all want this representative republic like we have. It's not a democracy, and so we think we can project that on them. They've grown up for centuries under something else. They're tribal. So getting them to understand, you're Afghan, you're one big country like we are. And one flag, they didn't understand that. He said that was one of their biggest problems.
Yeah, and Joy Reid, she thinks that she knows what the exact problem is.
Yeah, let's find out.
But, I feel like the important sort of data point, and Steve talks about it a lot, he's going to probably talk about it a little more tonight, is that these are white Christians. That this is a state that is overrepresented by white Christians that are going to participate in these caucuses, especially tonight. Earlier today, reached out to Robbie Jones from the Public Religion Research Institute, knowing that we were going to talk about Iowa. And this is a hyper-evangelical white state. And he said the following to me: Iowa is about 61% white Christian. The country as a whole is approximately 41% white Christian. And in Iowa, we're talking about evangelical white Christians. And he said the following. Because I asked him, what do they get out of supporting Donald Trump? Because he keeps losing, he keeps delivering losses and losses and losses. And he said the following: they see themselves as the rightful inheritors of this country, and Trump has promised to give it back to them. all the things that we think about electability, about, what are people gaming out, or none of that matters when you believe that God has given you this country, that it is yours, and that everyone who is not a white conservative Christian is a fraudulent American, is a less real American. Then you don't care about electability. You care about what God has given.
She's terrible, number one. Number two, I don't remember. I'm trying to think if I can remember when Trump said, I only want white Christians voting for me. You guys are the only ones that matter in this country.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if she could just let us know what speech that was.
Please play that soundbite for us, will you, please?
Yeah.
It's like when finally when one of the Congress people called out Adam Schiff, and who for a year, during the entire Trump campaign, he said, we have the information. It's that we're going to be revealing it. He said, let's see it.
That's what we call gaslighting 101. I think Adam Schiff is probably the master gaslighter.
How much whiter is her hair going to get, by the way, or more blondie is she going to get to make herself look like a white person?
I don't know. Cultural appropriation.
Yeah, and what's the black population in this country? What's the percentage?
13%?
Okay. So when she's talking about there are too many, so and they're pushing all this stuff for people of color to be in these positions and to get these promotions.
Well, the other thing that they've allowed is that people of color.
Yeah.
That people of color is going to get them all in trouble because you're now mixed with Hispanics and all these other races, and I mean when you look at it, they've been othered. I mean, that's terrible. That is terrible that we've allowed them to do this and that we keep allowing them to use the language to manipulate everyone. And Steve Stanton Sr. says, it's been 31 years since I watched CNN and 9 months since I watched Fox. I'm with you. I don't typically watch any of those stations. I watch clips. Mary McCann Hybrider, he keeps losing. What planet is she on?
Yeah, I always love this. He keeps losing. Losing what?
I haven't seen it. Maybe she doesn't know what winning looks like. I'm not really sure. And Lizzie Warren says, what is wrong with being white and Christian? Apparently everything.
Yeah. And by the way, that's how this country was founded. And we do believe that God gave us this country, just as he gave Israel to the Jews. And he gave it, there was a story about the Promised Land, if you're not familiar with the Bible. And God said, this is yours. Take it. And they hem-hawed around and everything else. And what happened? He had them ruled as slaves on numerous occasions because they weren't paying attention to him. What's happened since we've quit going to church? Since church attendance has happened? What has happened since we took God out of the classroom? I was going there. I was in school when they expelled God. And I always loved one of the fathers or somebody was standing outside at Columbine, one of the first major school shootings that we had all those years ago. He said, how could God allow this? And one preacher, I think, was there or something, turned around and said, well, God wasn't there. You threw him out 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Lizzie Warren, Mary McCann Hybrider commented to Lizzie Warren that she is now considered a terrorist. That's the other thing. They've managed to weaponize the language and weaponize being a patriotic American against all of us. Because we love the country, we're radicals. I mean, it's so tiring, Bill. If you don't love the country, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Has it ever lived up to its ideals? No. But who has?
Exactly.
And
we're not perfect people.
No.
There's only been one perfect person. Look what they did to him.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. I think going back to the religion, you have to have people of moral character that are, number one, in charge, and number two, willing to stand up and say, this is wrong. We need to stop doing these things. The fact that we've allowed all of this child trafficking, I'm just going to pick that because I think that for me, children cannot protect themselves. Adults are supposed to do that. And we have people contributing to the trafficking of children by not shutting down the border. Every single person that votes against border security, they're a trafficker, in my opinion.
And how many tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people have we lost to fentanyl? And then in the meantime, we are empowering these cartels. And it was like, and it goes back to one of the expressions that the late great Paul Harvey used to use, and that was when all these anti-nuclear people, get rid of our nuclear weapons. He said, if you do that, you will put us at the mercy of those who have no mercy.
That's the thing. People are like, we don't need to be the superpower in charge. Well, it has to be someone.
Somebody's got to do it.
And the people with power, it's the only thing that matters. If you want to look like, so I think we have Russia or China as options at this point in time of who gets to be in charge, if it's not the U.S.
Take your pick.
And Mary McCann Hybrider says the Constitution was created for a moral society and cannot survive under any other. You are correct. And I wanted to touch on this story that comes out of Atlanta because I am appalled at how people are behaving. I will say I've had some interactions with people just in the last few weeks that they do not care about anyone but themselves. They have no consideration for anyone else in a public setting. And it has just made my blood boil because I don't understand it, because I was raised that you are considerate of other people. Mm-hmm. You always think of the impact that your existence has on other people.
Yes.
And there are a lot of people that just do not even care. It's all about them. And that's the only thing that matters.
Okay. So what's the deal in Atlanta?
Well, an employee and a manager got into an argument at the airport in Atlanta at one of the stores. Let's take a look.
No, you can walk away and I'll get your fucking stuff.
Get my stuff.
Yes.
Get my stuff.
Hey, get out.
Bitch, get out my...
Oh, what the fuck do you think you're doing?
No, go wrong enough. Get my stuff.
Call police.
No. Get my stuff. Give me my bag.
Call the police. Call the police. Call the police.
Get off of me.
Hold on, let me call.
Get off of me.
Somebody's on the phone with the police, right?
Get off of me.
Somebody's on the phone with the police, right?
Yeah, I'm on the phone with the police.
So you can see that she wanted to grab her stuff, but the manager said, you stay here, I will go grab it, because she caused a disturbance in the store and he wanted her out of there. Mm-hmm. You can see that there was a terrible interaction there. And then she jumps over the counter and she grabs a pan to try and hit them with it. Mm-hmm. You have two men trying to restrain this girl. And here's the thing.
Did she identify as a girl?
She looks like a girl. That's all I can do.
Oh, okay.
That's all I can do. And here's the so I worked a lot in retail and fast food when I was younger, and it would have been like, hey, can I get my stuff? Like if I'm required to leave, okay. The manager would have gone back, because they don't want you back behind the counter if you've been let go, mm-hmm. because they don't want you to do damage to the restaurant or try to take something.
Right.
So obviously she was not having that. You can see that she fought them, and she was able to get her stuff, but this behavior is just so out of line. Mm-hmm. And I just don't understand. And I will say it's my age group and younger. I don't think millennials are going to step into the roles of leadership. That's something that really concerns me, because, they're not getting into politics. They're not getting into governance because they don't see themselves as leaders. And it's because we're the trophy generation. Most of the parents were fine with their kids getting a trophy just for participating. Mm-hmm. And so now we just have these people that are wandering through life and don't think that the answer is that they need to get involved, that they need to take personal responsibility for themselves and their families.
That's what good parenting comes in. I remember, I don't remember, it was an NFL player, and he was at one of his son's banquets, and their little league football team or whatever it was, and they started, and they had, I think they were either dead last or like 8th place out of 12 teams or something. And they started passing out these trophies to all the kids. And he told his son, he said, no, you're not taking that. Put that back. And he read him the Riot Act. And he said, you don't get a trophy for participating.
No, there's winners and losers, and winning teaches you to work for something, and losing teaches you to work harder and to lose graciously.
I want you to go back and look at all the very successful people through the free enterprise system, and it happened in America and maybe even the rest of the world, and look at where they started, how many times they failed, what they learned. The man who established, who became the owner of the Detroit Tigers baseball team, started out as a little pizza restaurant. And Brittany, he decided that he thought it'd be a great idea if and he one of the people that pioneered pizza delivery, and he failed at it 2 or 3 times, and it suddenly dawned on him at some point. They said, "Wait a minute, it failed because people were getting cold pizzas. If you call me, if the only pizza place here is in Pooler, and we order a pizza right now, and it has to come from Pooler through all this traffic and everything else, by the time we get it, it's cold and maybe even stale." But he came up with the concept, oh, what if I have a bunch of little small places around town and we only have a certain delivery area? And what if we, and they developed also these cases to keep the things hot in. And these insulated cases to keep the pizzas in, so it stays warm while it's delivering. And for a while they said, if it's not delivered in 30 minutes, it's free or something like that, or it's $5 off or something. That got them in trouble because guys would, delivery people were running red lights and causing traffic accidents to try to get the pizza there on time. So they stopped that issue. So, but that was another one of those failure things that moved things forward. But he failed on numerous occasions. But have you ever heard of Domino's?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll be darned. But at first, he failed on several occasions. Tom Monahan is his name, and became fabulously wealthy, owner of the Detroit Tigers baseball team. He since sold it. But you look at anybody that came. Walt Disney came from abject poverty and failed throughout. People laughed at him for all the things that he was doing. Cartoon characters they thought were ridiculous. All these things. When he came up with the idea for Disneyland, nobody would finance it with him. ABC was finally the first. Finally said, this sounds like a pretty good idea. We'll help you with that. But he was doing his Disney shows at the time, and it goes on and on. You look at anybody that has become wildly successful. Usually, they have had catastrophic failure and have learned from that. So this idea of people being too afraid to fail, and when you see that, if you raise your kids like that, how many times have we seen these girls that are the beauty queens of their school, that their parents were very well to do, great socialites and things of that nature, and they get to college and they don't get to pledge the fraternity or sorority that mom was in.
Mm-hmm.
And they kill themselves, or they don't make the cheerleading squad in college, and they commit suicide.
Well, I think that this goes male and female. We just have not raised strong children in this country. We have we tried to protect them from everything, and I think that it's really, really hurt their ability to do anything outside the box. They're afraid to fail. They're afraid to do anything. And
well, teachers are told you can't give that kid a 0 just because he didn't turn his work in. You can't give a grade below 50. You can't fail these people. Why not? I failed the 5th grade. I enjoyed the 5th grade so much I went through it twice, and glad I did. Not only did I become a better student, but in the second trip through the 5th grade, I met my favorite teacher of all time. I would have never had her, and realize how great a teacher can be, how close they can be, and be a friend as well as a teacher, but know where to draw the line. Then a lady named Annette Roden. God bless her soul.
Well, and Lizzie Warren says, unfortunately, these entitled folks frequently get away with that behavior, which only encourages it more. Steve Stanton Sr. says, be it congressman, become a multimillionaire. Do you think that should be our slogan to get younger people to run?
Yeah.
And Steve Stanton Sr. says, did you all see DeSantis receive a participation trophy? Really funny. He did post it, so I'll have to watch that. One thing, I saw a clip of DeSantis that was really cringeworthy. And someone was asking him, how do you say your last name? And he's like, it's pronounced winner. It was really cringy. But
well, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, coming up next.
You know, there have been so many wins happening, and I think that one of them happened across the pond.
Let's find out what it was.
Yeah, when we get
next. Stay real.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
When you're looking to buy a business or sell a business, the experts at Best Business Brokers have you covered. Whether you're ready to cash in on your years of hard work or you're taking that first step in buying a business of your own, they're here to guide you through the process and make sure you get the best outcome possible. By having Best Business Brokers assist you when you buy a business or sell a business, they handle the legwork of the intricate process. This ensures a smooth transition of ownership, allowing you to get to work immediately or receive payment for your business as soon as possible. With base operations in Savannah and Charleston, they service all of Georgia and South Carolina. If you're considering starting a business here, the mild winters and 5-tiered economic areas make these the perfect places to do so. If you're ready to buy a business or sell a business, then you're ready to contact Best Business Brokers. Visit their website at b3brokers.com or call at 912-349-0940.
A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
Scary that it can be put into anything, and we can't even see it or notice it.
Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannahans with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Brittany, you know, when you elect stupid people, you get stupid results.
Yeah, I think we're experiencing that about now here in the U.S.
And what gets, and I still, if we raise stupid people, with our education standards as low as they are these days, you get things. I am still stunned by the man on the street interview a couple of years ago when I heard they were doing this. They were asking this kid how much, something about protecting our farms, because our farmers were still are in dire straits.
Mm-hmm.
And this kid actually said, and he was serious. I know you're going to think this is funny if you haven't heard it, but he was serious. He said, why do we have to have farms when we have grocery stores? Now, that's a level of stupidity and ignorance that I can't even fathom. And so if you elect people to office who have that mentality, we got plenty of grocery stores. What do we need farms for? And the farmers are making too much money. Do you know the story of Argentina and Juan Perón?
Mm-hmm.
When he took over in Argentina, Juan Perón took over in Argentina. Argentina was exporting over half of the world's beef and 80% of the world's corn. And people complained about the farmers making too much money. Juan Perón went to wage and price controls. When the farmers couldn't be rewarded for what they produced, the production kept dropping and dropping until the point where Argentina started having to import food to feed its own people.
Yeah, that's called the decline of a country as well.
Yeah, it is. So telling these I don't know where people think they're going to eat, what they think that they're going to, how they think they're going to live if we destroy the people who produce the food.
Well, and one of the things that people don't understand about farming and like cattle ranches is it's one of the only businesses that you just want to break even.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so expensive. You really have to love what you're doing. My dad did cattle for a very long time. It's very difficult, a lot more challenging than people realize. And it's a sacrifice.
Who was the sub-moron that we heard, one of the politicians that said, it's not difficult to be a farmer. What do? You dig a hole and you put a seed in.
I don't know. That person should immediately.
I lost it. I should have remembered who it was. But again, that level of stupidity. These are people in power. Well, the Dutch farmers, I think, have won a victory because they were trying to close down something like 3,000 dairy farms in Holland. I don't know, to grow more tulips or to build more windmill. I don't know, because we love windmills here too. But I think they finally won legislation, to cut so they could stay in business, so they could still make the milk and the butter and that sort of thing. But in Germany, same thing's happening. The Germans finally have gotten fed up. The German farmers said enough with all of this emission standards and everything else, and they started protesting. And over the weekend. You can see that.
So this is some of the protesting that's been going on.
Driving their tractors into Berlin.
Well, and they've been having people come from other countries to support them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of caravanning happening, but kind of amazing to see. And also like patriotism. This is like what I believe patriotism looks like too. It's peaceful. There's an energy that comes along with protesting in this way versus what we see from like Black Lives Matter.
So how did it all come about? Bill Wirtz, or Wirtz, was on Fox and Friends on Saturday, explaining how these Germans got together and what we could learn from that.
That would skyrocket their fuel costs in an already struggling and highly regulated economy. They've been taking to the streets and highways in their tractors, stopping traffic and dumping hay and manure in their wake. So what can American farmers learn from their revolt? Here to discuss is senior policy analyst at the Consumer Choice Center, Bill Wirtz. Bill, thanks for joining us this morning. I think, this is obviously happening in Germany, but these policies are coming from sort of this globalist mindset. And so, indeed, I do believe they're coming to America. Explain to us exactly why they're, what the German farmers think the government's trying to do them. Are they trying to just tax them, or are they actually trying to take their land? What's the deal here?
Well, so the German farmers are absolutely right to be angry here, because for the last few years and decades, both the German government and the European Union government has essentially been taking away all the rights for them to use certain pesticides, and that has reduced their yields. And now they're coming back and saying, you also need to increase the taxes on tractors and diesel. So these farmers are really struggling. They don't see the future for them. As consumers, we want good food products and we want them at a good price. But for that, we also need farmers that stand on solid financial ground. And I just don't see the German government currently understanding that.
What I don't understand is why any government or entity, international organization would want to mess with the food supply.
Well, the problem is that they're under pressure to reduce their carbon dioxide emissions, and they try to blame all of this on the farmers. And what they do is they export those emissions to other countries. So if you don't produce your food products in Germany, but you import them from abroad, then those emissions are in other countries. So on paper, it looks like you pursued good green policies, but in actuality, you increased food prices for consumers and you bankrupt all your local farmers.
Yeah, it all feels very intentional. I'm glad we have these images up, Bill, because I was blown away when I saw this on social media. I immediately reached out to our producers on this show to say, we've got to do this story because we know that there's a war on farmers here and that these policies are coming to America. Talk to me about that and also about how effectively these farmers fought back, because they were able to win in this case, and it was because of how organized they were, right?
Yeah, the German government is now seeking a compromise with the farmers, and it shows that if farmers mobilize and organize and protest, they can actually be victorious. The same happened in the Netherlands just last year. So we see that if farmers organize, they can make a difference. However, that doesn't seem to currently be affecting the green policies that many European countries are pursuing. So it will take more action. But it also shows that American farmers, they do have a voice also. Currently, the U.S. has a not as regulated system, but a lot of Democrats I see are arguing for very similar policies that we currently see in Europe.
What would be your advice to Americans before we get to this point that the German farmers are? What would you say to Americans right now, advising them so that we don't go down that path?
I think all of us need to understand that we come from families that were agrarian families for the longest time. We all have a background in farming to some extent. And I think we need to recognize that and support farmers in what they need. We also need to put this as a focus for presidential debates. I don't see this currently being asked of candidates running for president. We need to make this a key focus, because how we can afford food, what the quality of our food is vitally important. Nutrition is vitally important. We need to talk about these issues more, especially now with the Iowa caucus coming up. The U.S. has a very good farming system, but it needs to preserve that. It needs to understand where that comes from. So I think it's vital that we make this a key issue in political debates also.
I couldn't agree more. There is a war on American farmers and ranchers. There needs to be more attention before we get to this point that the European farmers are in.
Well, there you go. They finally have, the German government's capitulated. Where do they think it's a good idea to start raising taxes on equipment? Do you know how much farm equipment costs?
I sure do. Lived on a farm.
Yeah. I mean, one small device could be almost $250,000.
Well, and there's a lot more problems with farming than people realize, especially when you look at how many people are, especially in the West, when you look at how many people are moving into areas that they don't have enough water to farm, let alone, for more houses. And I think that people don't it's interesting how it's all of these environmentalists that, push all of this global warming, climate change, name the thing, but they have no idea what it looks like when you start building, you overbuild a community and the pressure that puts on the environment and what damage it can do, not only to that community, but the communities that it supports with farming.
And again, this goes back to this ignorance that we talked about, Brittany, when you have politicians or somebody who drive by a farm area and you see these acres and acres of nothing, and you say, and actually they're what do you call it when you don't grow something on the field to get it to regenerate it, so you don't plant on anything on it for about 4 or 5 years.
Like the regeneration of the soil.
So it regenerates the soil and gets all the nitrogen back in and things of that nature. And say, well, look at all this land where we could be building stuff. And then we put houses or paved roads or parking lots over fertile land that was once used to grow, whether it was cotton or corn or soybeans or anything else.
Well, I think the other thing that we have done with the government is that we expect them to be experts in every single area. They can't do it. They should not be regulating everything because they don't understand it. That's the big issue that I have with a lot of the bills that they're presenting. And those people are not experts in healthcare. Those people are not experts in farming. Those people are not experts in environment.
We keep talking about the Obamas and Biden people that have never had a job in their life. They've never worked for a company. They've never signed they've only signed the back of a paycheck. They've never signed the front of one. And yet they think it's okay that they know how to regulate all these businesses. The guy who George McGovern, who was who was beaten the worst of any presidential candidate in history, lost all but 49 states. He said when he finally had to go to work, he bought a little bed and breakfast or something in Connecticut or someplace or New Hampshire, wherever he was. And he said when he realized all of the things that he had to do, all the legislation that he voted for, all these regulations he was under to run this place, he said, boy, I'd have never voted for this.
They have no idea the impact because they don't understand the industry.
Mm-mm.
There is no reason that they should be over-regulating anything. They should stick to protecting citizens, building roads and infrastructure. And I'm trying to even think of a third one because I can't.
The OSHA, for example, OSHA, for goodness sakes, they will come in and they will look and say, "Well, you need to pay. You need to put in these handicap ramps." And so you spend thousands of dollars putting in these handicap ramps that are used practically never.
Mm-hmm.
Then he said, now on these steps, you have to paint the big bright yellow so people know that this is a step. Okay, so you paint them bright yellow. 3 years later, the next guy comes back and said, no, we've changed the regulation; they have to be red. So now you got to spend all this money painting them red. And I know it sounds like it's a small thing, but this thing they multiply on top of one another.
Yeah, we just need to get away from regulating and passing bills just to pass bills, or to suffice some sort of lobby or company. I think that we need to get away from that pretty heavily. The good news is that I do think that we are seeing some major wins. I did want to take a look. I'm not sure if we have the clip 13. But this was in Iowa, and I just thought it was so fun. Like, I appreciate people that have a sense of humor, and I think we've gotten away from that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But if we could play clip 13.
Yeah, let's take a look at see if this what's.
I just think that's so funny. Like, people that are willing to put that on their vehicles, I'm sure that, and maybe that wasn't in Iowa. It looks a little too nice to be Iowa.
Wherever it was, it was, for goodness sakes. You know, I love the thought behind it, and the humor behind it as well. But it also points out it's also satire.
Yes,
and that's really good stuff.
Yes, and Steve Stanton Sr. says, may they break the will of John Kerry, UN, WEF, WHO, and the radicals. I hope that we start doing something. I'm surprised that we're not seeing more coming out of our country. I think that they've scared a lot of people into not reacting and not doing things. So it's kind of a shame.
Yeah, it is.
Very much a shame.
Well, that's pretty much going to take care of it for us today, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I think one thing I did want to mention is that the good news is that we're winning. Donald Trump just won the Iowa caucus. And
I mean a landslide.
Yes. And Miss America is actually a woman that has no penis. Isn't that exciting?
Wow.
Yeah.
Who knew?
I know. Who knew? An actual woman did win the Miss America. She is a fighter pilot. She's beautiful in the military.
I didn't realize they had that part of the competition now.
Yeah.
To come out with no clothes on or something. Well, I'll be darned. Missed that one. Maybe the ratings will skyrocket now, baby.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, congratulations to her.
Yes, and that's going to do it for us today. Make sure you go to thelocalspin.com. You can support us there, become a member, or you can advertise with us. And make sure you tune in tomorrow.
Check us out. Anything you can do to help. We appreciate it.